Hey guys, welcome to the Scaling Brokerage podcast. Today we have a special guest, John. He's built a successful real estate brokerage. He's to kind of share his insights on growing and managing a thriving brokerage business. First and foremost, tell me a little bit more about your brokerage, John. What inspired you to open your brokerage?
Okay, well, there's a longer story to that. Right now, I am with Puffer Morris Real Estate in Lancaster. I started with them actually many years ago, and then about 7.5 years ago, I went out on my own, and I did that for about 6 years. And I closed my own firm in I think middle of 23. And went back to Puffer Morris where I had started, and now I'm brokering there. Both of them were indies, independent brokerages, pretty boutique. Lank Living was a lot larger than what I've got now. Right now, I've got like 6 agents working with me. At Lank Living, I had about 25 at my peak, and I averaged about 17 throughout the course of the brokerage. I really liked having my own brokerage. At a certain point, though, it came to, well, we can talk about that just at the ending of it in just a second. But I really enjoyed having my own brokerage. I enjoyed working with agents. Something that I had always enjoyed was dealing with agents, mentoring agents, and helping them to become better agents, better realtors, and to serve their clients better. And we're going to talk about advice to realtors at some point in our conversation, of course. But I wanted to work with people who viewed themselves as colleagues rather than competitors. And I know that may sound odd to a lot of people, but it worked out really well. I had a high retention rate in my brokerage as a result of what I felt was the primary modus operandi of the company, and that again was to honesty, integrity, responsibility to your clients, taking all that seriously, but also building your business in an appropriate and smart way. There's a lot of people who throw out advice on how to be a great realtor, and a lot of people don't follow the advice because it's just impossible oftentimes to meet the expectations of real estate coaches who want you to pound the pavement 24/7, 365. And that's not really realistic. A lot of people have lives in addition to their real estate careers. And I felt that it was important to have a brokerage that valued that was focused on life, working to live rather than living to work, which is a lot of the way I see brokerages going. And the ones that are smaller if they have that kind of philosophy, they don't tend to last very long because people get burned out.
Yeah, speaking like burned out,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. I love your vision, kind of what you're doing. You're looking to make impact. You're not just looking to make deals
Right.
going through. So at the end of the day, what is some of the biggest challenge you faced as a brokerage owner? This could be like, recruiting. This could be, scaling, even making that impact bigger. What are some of those challenges you faced along the way? Because I'm sure so many other brokerage owners would love to hear that.
Well, yeah, if you're not recruiting constantly, and making it a primary focus of your work as a broker, you're not going to get quality realtors. And you can have first-year realtors all day long join your company, but if you don't have producers, then it's not going to work. So you have to go after producers. You have to offer them the good stuff that realtors have come to expect. And that's tech, and that's giving them dot loop or DocuSign and making sure that their insurance is paid for them, that sort of thing. Clearing their roadblocks to earning. But I also wanted to attract realtors who were willing to put in the nitty gritty work of being a realtor. for example, lots of agents. I mean, there's 2 million realtors in the United States. And a lot of agents think that if they get their game hot on Instagram, that they're just going to make it. And the reality is that that's not the case. That's just simply not the case. You can rely on social media to build and sustain your business. It's just not feasible. So, what I was teaching realtors in my brokerage was the tried and true methods that the realtors in the previous generation had, they still work. The analog methods still work. For example, and I'm probably giving away my own work ethic here, but when I first came up, I had a broker who was he was an older broker. He'd been in the business since the 70s. And he told me, this stuff is really great. Social media is really wonderful. It connects people. But social media is all about emotion. Whereas getting a letter in the mail from a realtor who sold a house in your neighborhood, talking about the home sale process, how it worked for them and what they could get in their neighborhood, that pays dividends. That's worth the 9 touches because people remember those things. People remember a letter that comes to their house versus
It's personalized.
Versus a notice that comes. You know what? Here's the thing. You spend more time doing these things, but they're better connection to your clients. And so when I'm working with realtors, when I'm helping to I'm working on building the brokerage we have that I'm in right now, that I'm brokering for, and giving them tried and true methods that work for them, it pays dividends over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah.
And one of the things is, so like going to those dividends, like what do you say, how did you adapt and growing despite, when you're getting into this, right? How did you adapt and continue to grow despite a lot of the challenges you face, like maybe not a personal touch point? How did you get past those? Like when you maybe even got first started in your own brokerage, or even when you started as a broker yourself?
Mm-hmm. Well, golly, there's a lot of questions there, Joe.
No worries, man.
Scaling up your brokerage is difficult. It's difficult. You got to be out there. You got to go to events where realtors are going. You got to be there, and you got to be unafraid to have conversation. When I started out in the field, frankly, being an agent, there's a lot of resemblance between starting yourself up as a realtor and getting going in your personal career to getting your brokerage going. There's a lot of relationships there, a lot of relation to, so one of the things that I had written down in advance of this is, the advice that I got from it in the beginning was focus, nose to the grindstone, take care of yourself, but nose to the grindstone, and don't be intimidated. Don't be intimidated. A lot of realtors, a lot of brokers are afraid to speak up. They're intimidated by the fact that our industry has a not such a great reputation, in large part because of historical nonsense like redlining and blockbusting. So, I think Gallup does a poll every year on professions and people's impressions of professions. And realtors are usually in that 22% range of favorability. That's very low. We're slightly below used car salesmen. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So oftentimes realtors in the beginning, and you don't survive if you do this. You do not survive in the industry, and brokers do not survive in the industry if they're too intimidated to interject themselves into the conversation, to not be afraid of stating, I'm a broker. I'm a broker of real estate, and I can offer you this service. The other thing that I told all of my agents, and I started them out by giving them a book about first year in real estate, and then giving them books about sales. My big thing from the beginning was educate yourself. educate yourself. Don't stop educating yourself. I still listen to podcasts. I still read real estate. I've been in the business for a long time now, and I still am reading texts and books about real estate. There is no better education in this field than the stuff you can get at the library, from your colleagues, from the library. If your brokerage has a library, dig into it. Read. When I first started out, I think I had 3 transactions in my first year as a realtor,
Yeah.
but I read 30 books that year.
And you
And
learned so much.
I made that my job. Luckily, my wife was able to support our family a little bit during that time. And of course, I worked odd jobs to try to tending bar and such to keep going. But when you're a broker, you're looking for the right people. And what I came to find was, if you get people from industries, people who are entering real estate from industries that do hard work, like the restaurant industry, I'll tell you what, there are no better realtors out there than the people who have tended bar, because they can keep 2 thoughts in their heads at once. And also, I don't know if Joe, if you ever worked in the restaurant industry, but
I did actually.
Yeah. So your manager at some point told you, follow the steps. Follow the steps. You know what you have to do to make the beginning of the meal great and the end of the meal great, so you can get that tip. It's the same thing in real estate. You've got to understand the process. Educating your agents on the process and making sure that they know what they're doing is extraordinarily important towards the future of your brokerage. There's just no getting around it. You have to be the one, as the broker, you have to be the one that pushes your agents towards more reading, more understanding, more in-depth looking more in depth at the industry, understanding the economics of the industry, etc. That's how agents get over that hump. Not being intimidated, educating themselves, and then continuing that process. Real estate's a learning curve. The learning curve is hard to be realtors. The learning curve is huge to be a broker.
Yeah. Yeah, that does.
I feel like I rambled on there for 5 minutes, but
No, that makes sense. I always say, like, if you're not learning, you're dying. At the end of the day, the average person after college or high school, whatever their last education experience was, is they stop learning, they stop reading, they stop going through courses. I'm a big believer in the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 gives like one of the best returns in the market, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to stocks and everything else. But then there's also the S&P 500, investing into yourself. Because those skill sets will not only make you more deals in real estate, they will make you go farther. You will always be adapting. And then the more you know about a subject, you become very familiar with things. You become an expert in the field. When you become an expert in the field, you close more clients. So that's always how I have always thought about it personally, John, which is great. So one of my next questions was, you were talking about going out there, putting yourself out there, not being afraid of rejection, right? How do you market your own brokerage, John?
Well, when I had my own place, when I was the broker owner of my own place, Link Living Realty, I did a lot of marketing through social media just to build name, and then just to build name recognition, but working with agents to do a lot of the analog work to get themselves out there, communicating, knocking on doors in neighborhoods where you have sold. I'm not sure that I would advise people to do that right now. But sending out letters, dropping off placards and things along that line to get neighborhoods where you've sold houses or you bought houses to think about you as their realtor. I don't know what else to say about that.
No, you're good. So just social media, going out there door to door, connecting with other individuals. Those were the ones that worked for you, and then scaling your brokerage. What strategies have been been the most successful in recruiting agents and growing your business for you personally?
Well, you got to go where the agents are. You got to go where your local association is having. It's painful. But you got to go where your
Yeah.
local associations are having events, having realtor events, having picnics, realtor picnics. You know, I'm a member of the Lancaster County Association of Realtors, LCAR, and they're very active with events for their agents to get more learning, to get more continuing education, but also to get together as colleagues. And I really appreciate that, because my focus, as I mentioned, as a broker owner, was to have to build colleagues over competitors. That concept of colleagues over competitors. So the other thing that we would do is I would tell my agents, the agents that were working with me, hey, if you see people out there that are doing great work, that are doing it ethically, that would fit with our company culture, give me their name. Let's tap them. Let's have a conversation with them. Let's get them in for a coffee. I gained a number of realtors. A number of realtors came onto my company because of that approach. People that I had worked with, people that other realtors at the company had worked with, talking to them about joining our company because this is what we offer, X, Y, and Z. I found, being an indie, however, that a lot of people that come to indie brokerages, independent brokerages, come because they don't want what big brokerages offer. They want a lot more autonomy. Now, you know, the big brokerages are great. If you join KW, for example, you're going to sell homes. Their formula is great. They take care of business, right? But if you don't want that corporate culture, that sense of corporate culture that they have there, you know, indie might be a good space for you because you can drive your own business the way you see fit. And that was something that I was really adamant about. Like, you know, as long as you're conducting yourself in an honest way and you take your ethics seriously, then we want you. You know, we'd love to have you come join us.
No, yeah, and then that's kind of like a agent attraction side of things, right?
It
So you're
is. It's
leveraging agent
absolutely.
attraction. I want to dive into the specifics on kind of what agent attraction systems besides that do you have in place, or do you rely on to kind of grow your brokerage? Besides, going to events, what are some other ways that like most brokerages don't do, or something that they can benefit off of?
Right. Well, this may sound silly, but I look at inventory. I look to see who's in that sweet spot that most of my agency is in. You know, most of my agents are doing between 1.5 to 3 to 4 million a year. It's easy on your MLS systems, most MLS systems, to run inventory, run a list of who has made those marks in the last year, and then identify the ones that you think you could work with. Research. Recruiting agents is oftentimes all about research and finding the right person that you think may fit strategically with your company, and then talking to those agents and trying to recruit them to see whether they would fit with the corporate culture that you are offering.
That makes sense. So you try to align the mission first. You look at you do a deep dive into like the potential person that's going to work for you. You like to keep
Yes.
a smaller team so you can
Mhm.
go farther, because if you have a key player that's doing, say 3 deals a week, right? That's better than someone that's doing one. At the end of the day, those aren't exact numbers, but it's an example. That
Yeah.
sets away. So are you
Although
actually
those 3 deals a day guys, you know, they're so rare. You know, I saw a statistic the other day in which it said that last year, 74% of agents realtors in the United States did no transactions whatsoever. The agents that did between 1 million and 4 million, it's like 4%. So, and then there's the people who do plus 30, 35 plus a year, and that's in a percentage of 1%. You know, I think it was like 0.8% of realtors do that.
Mhm.
It might have been less than that. I'm not really sure. I can't remember the numbers right off for that lower end. But the sweet spot is getting those agents that do between the 1 and 4 million a year, because they're work to the grindstone kind of people.
Yeah, they're hunters. They have the hunter mentality.
Nose to the grindstone kind of people. Sorry, I messed up the idiom.
No, no worries, no worries. Are you actually exploring like additional ways, to attract more agents at your brokerage right now, or what are you doing currently?
We are doing the, if you know somebody that would fit well, speak up kind of thing. Right now, there's some changes in the industry that's happening. A lot of agents are dropping out. If 74% of the people did no transactions, 74% of the 2 million people in the United States that are realtors did no transactions last year, a lot of those folks are not going to renew, and they're not going to stay in the business. I haven't got the numbers yet, but I asked some folks at my local association, and they're seeing drop off of realtors pretty much the same as 2008, 2009.
Wow.
So attracting those a lot. So, it's, if people have it good, they generally kind of stay where they're at. So recruitment right now is a little bit rough.
Yeah.
But we're trying to do it the old fashioned way. We're talking to people. We're inquiring with them to see whether whether leaving the big brokerage or leaving that indie that they've been at for years, to come over to a company like ours, like Puffer Morris. It's the tried and true methods that are still working for us. We're still gaining about an agent a year, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
But we're not big, and we don't intend to be big.
You want to stay small and a little bit.
I want to stay small. We're an indie boutique. Yeah. When we're focused on on our clients and our sphere of influence, and we're not going crazy to try to saturate the market with our name.
Yeah, that makes sense. The real estate industry is always, constantly evolving. Yeah. So where do you see the future of your brokerage, and how do you plan to stay ahead of the competition?
Well, my brokerage has been around since 1982 and has had the same formula since then, and it works for us, which is small, boutique, excellent service, professional and thorough. That attracts people. It does attract people. People have interest in that sort of company, and the kind of a little bit of a laissez-faire way of doing it. So we're just continuing with those tried and true, the analog methods of gathering people and having them join them, and having conversation with your colleagues that are not inside your company. Just keep having conversations. It takes a while to recruit people. It really does. It takes a while to recruit people. You have to identify and then convince and then translate that into a move. It's a lot of effort, a lot of time. But it's important for me as a broker to be concentrating on those things, and making sure that in the back of my mind, recruiting new agents has to be a priority.
It always should be.
Even though none of us like it. It has to be a priority. None of us like it. Nobody likes recruitment, but it has to be a priority. Yeah,
it does. You're scaling the mission. You're more deal flow. It changes everything for the business.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fast forward. 2, 3, maybe even 5 years, John.
Okay.
If your brokerage continues to grow and add not as many agents, but those high quality, then between the 1 to 5 million mark. Where do you see yourself in your role within your company after that? Are you more like the person that would want to take a step back and automate it, or would you want to continue growing that, in the next 5 to 6 years?
Well, I want to continue growing. My goal, and I know this sounds light, but we're sitting with 6 now. I would like in the next 2 years to be at 10, and that's 10 solid producing agents. Getting first-time agents. Training first-time agents is fine, but that's oftentimes what big companies do best. What I'm interested in are people who are well-trained, and then can translate into taking care of their own business, being a member of an indie brokerage. So my goal personally is to see the company get up to 10 within the next 2 years, and that's fine for a small boutique. It's just fine. When I was doing recruitment for Lank Living, it had to be a lot more. It had to be a lot more. I did be a lot more focused on that versus. What's nice about small boutique agencies is that you have those concerns about recruitment, you have those concerns about retention, but also you can focus a lot more on your personal business. And that was something that when I owned my own place, I had a real difficult time doing. because the energy was on management and retention and recruiting. And my personal real estate business suffered a little bit. I saw a decrease. I saw decreases in my overall income from my personal business, and it was made up in part by growth in the company, but that hurts your overall. I've got to remind. When I closed my company, I had to remind myself to touch base with every person in my sphere of influence, touch base with everybody I had worked in the past to let them know that I had just made a change. It was just a change. I'm still here. I'm still doing the same stuff that I was doing before. So
It's still in the same process, same vision. Everything's
yeah.
going through.
One of the things I wanted to add, Joe, is so I had a business that was successful. Things were going well, right? The market was difficult because we're right now. Lancaster was for the last 2 years in a hyper sellers market where sellers were running the table. And I can honestly tell you, even with 15, 16, 20 transactions a year, I can't remember how many times. I could count in one hand how many times I, for example, had a client do an inspection, or as a listing agent accepting an inspection. That's unfortunate, of course, for buyers, but it just goes to show how tight the market has become in my community. One of the things that I wanted to mention to you was that my decision to close my company didn't have much to do with the quality of the agents. It didn't have much to do with the market as much as it had to do with the fact that at some point, it's hard to be the boss. It's hard to hold a company up with your own will and willpower. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's okay to talk about, it's okay to think about shutting it down if it's not working for you. I'm 55 years old and I have a 5-year-old son. So I have to think about my energy level and what I'm giving to my family, what I'm giving to my life, and my work-life balance, owning my own company. It was difficult. It was difficult to maintain a positive and forward-moving work-life balance. And so I called it quits on owning the company. I went back to just brokering, which has been good. My last day, Joe, my last day of working, last weekend of working as my own company, I dealt with 52 phone calls on a Saturday afternoon, right? A week later, after the company was closed, I had 2. That was actually kind of nice. My family got me back a little bit. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think getting that time back is awesome, man. At the end of the day, so if you were starting over, rebuilding your real estate brokerage from scratch, what advice would you give yourself as a new business owner?
One, hang in there, because the first year is always going to be rough. It's going to be rough. You don't have enough agents to survive. You don't have enough agents to break even. And I think every broker, every independent broker has the same, or a broker who manages an indie has the same story. It's rough that first year. You're going to be putting in your own money to try to make it work. It does work if you're putting your nose to the grindstone. If you're there, if you're mentoring and you're staying positive, you're mentoring your agents and you're staying positive about the future of the company, that positivity, it pays off. It pays off because positivity is contagious. And if you're in a state of constant where I've seen other brokers do this, where they get so bogged down by the difficulties of that first year, they never make it to the second because they become overwhelmed. They become washed out. And then, their brokerage shrinks because it doesn't have a positive tone to it. The other thing that I would suggest people do is also start being involved in your community. Realtors like to be part of boards. Let me rephrase this. A lot of realtors think if they join a board, that is a board of this local organization or that local organization. That's great marketing. If you're involved in if you're involved in your community and you're involved in a positive way, and you care about issues and you talk about those issues, that resonates with your agents, that resonates with your clients, that resonates with the community. You want your brokerage to have your impression in the community to be a positive one. So with Lang Living and with Puffer Morris, one of the things that I stress is get involved, get out there, be part of your community, be part of issues that are important to you. Something I was really proud of as the broker at Lang Living was that we were a certified B Corp. And a B Corp, if you don't know what it is a certification, a business certification from B Lab, which is an international organization that promotes economic and social sustainability in your business. And one of the ways we got that was because we were out and about talking about issues like food security, housing insecurity, homelessness in our community. That resonated with our clients, that resonated with our community, and we got a reputation for being the kind of agency that cares not only about our clients but about our neighbors. I think that business model is a lot more successful than I'm going to make some money. I'm going to make money off my agents. I'm going to survive doing that. If money is your primary focus in this current environment, in our society, in our culture, if you're focused primarily on money, that will not resonate. Pick issues. Go out there. Have conversations with your neighbors about housing insecurity. Have conversations with your neighbors about why folks are not able to get mortgages. Why is there so much housing insecurity? Why is there so much food insecurity in our community? Realtors should be involved. Realtors should be involved in their community because that's how you make connections. That's how you get a reputation for being a straight shooter and a professional.
No, yeah, that makes sense too. And I love the fact that the mission aspect goes through. And you're like, if you just focus on the mission, everything else will follow. Everything will be good. So, John, this has been like a credible conversation. I truly appreciate your real estate professionals like yourself that are willing to share insights and really does contribute and make an impact to the industry at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, thanks.
No problem. Before we sign off, please let our listeners know how they can learn a little bit more about yourself and your brokerage. Do you have a website, social media profiles they can visit, etc.?
Well, yeah, you can visit John Spitalier, Lancaster's Real Estate Broker, which is a Facebook page. Puffer Morris we have a website, puffermorris.com, puffermorris.com. You can find out more about us on there. I have a personal website called Lank Realtor, LANCRealtor.com. There's more about me on there. Those websites, those things are important. Those kinds of output are important outward facing publicity because, buyers from out of the area who want to move to Lancaster are looking for those things. They're looking for connections, and they're looking for real estate agents that know their community or are involved in their community. You can find out more about me there. So.
All right, thanks guys for listening to Scaling Brokerage Podcast. This is Joseph Stone with Monterey Brokerage. We're signing off.